Okay, so we are good to go in 5. Okay, so we are live.
Namaskar and a very good afternoon to all of you. Thank you for having joined our webinar this afternoon, and we are waiting for a few more others to join. We have a substantial number of participants that have registered. But nevertheless, to keep up with our timelines, we will start now. I'm Tushar Jani, Senior Program Director at Center for Environment Education, and we look after the Environment Management Group, which essentially works with industries and industry initiatives, that is majoritarily. Today, we are beginning with a series of our uh, new set of webinars, training programs on sustainability and ESG. The session will proceed in such a way that you will be taken through what the whole training program is about, what will be its content, and how best you can benefit out of it. Now, to set the context, would like to say that sustainability is essential for businesses because it drives long-term success by balancing profit, people, and the planet. By adapting to sustainable practices, it not only reduces our costs through efficient resources and it minimizes risks from regulations and supply chain disruptions, and it enhances brand value. It also fosters innovation, attracts investors, and at the same time, the consumers or the customers of your product also get attracted. Ultimately, sustainability strengthens competitiveness, ensures resilience against future challenges, and positions businesses for lasting growth in the increasingly eco-conscious market. Today, climate change is both a risk and a catalyst for transformation. A lot of things we have seen going in and around us today and for past few years that have been brought in by climate change. And that pressurizes us to have a look at our business operations, our surroundings, our network, our supply chains from a new dimension. Businesses that embed sustainability or sustainable practices into their core strategies, let's say, and invest into natural resource stewardship will be the best position tomorrow to thrive in a low carbon, climate resilient future. With that little introduction, I would like to request my director, Shri Karthikeya Sarabhai, to give us a preamble and gist of what sustainability is as far as Center for Environment Education is concerned, and why we have brought this particular set of training programs for you. Over to you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Tushar Bhai, and welcome to everyone joining this webinar today. This is an extremely important um, webinar, if I like, and I think reaching out to industry, reaching out to the transformation which Tushar Bhai spoke about. And I want to just step back and talk about how CE, which was set up under the aegis of the Ministry of Environment and Forest and Climate Change, saw this. And initially, it was felt that when we talk about environment education, awareness, training, capacity building, industry forms an extremely important part of that transformation. What industry does, how it does it, how its supply chain is managed, uh, uh, is something which is critical, and which is why we set up that industry group, looking at various different options. Since then, a lot has happened. We had the Sustainable Development Goals, which came out, and in those Sustainable Development Goals itself, you had many comments. You have SDG 12, which talks about responsible consumption and production. You have the 13, which talks about climate action. SDG 9 on industry, innovation, and infrastructure, and SDG 7, which is on partnership and goals. And that was one sort of driver. Another one was, of course, the reality of climate change. And climate change made us realize that unless we change our methods of production and consumption, and the source of our power, moving away from fossil fuel-based power to renewables, we will not be able to achieve these goals. And you should be happy to know that just last week, I think the globe at least had 50%. We crossed that 50% mark last week of being able to produce based on renewable sources rather than on fossil fuels. So that's a major milestone, if you like, that whole journey. Now, for India, we've taken on very ambitious goals. We've taken on the goals of Viksit Bharat in 2047. We've taken on the goal of a net zero India by, I think, 2070. We have the SDGs goals and then themselves, which are 2030. And there are several other milestones and goals which we want. And we are very serious about it. As a country, we have done well. If you go to, I mean, I remember in one of the COPs a year ago, they put up all the major economies, which is the one which actually seriously adheres to its commitments. And India was right at the top of that, because we are making that transition, even though being a developed country. This was the whole dilemma, that can a developing country be able to, with all the resource constraints, can we still reach this? And we are seriously looking at it. But this cannot be reached without working closely with business. And in that, as you all perhaps are well aware, that the government themselves have put up standards. They put up the standards of ESG and reporting standards, the BRSR standards of reporting. The top 1,000 companies, I believe, need to meet this, but it's slowly every year progressively being extended. And because the 1,000 companies are the large companies, but because they have to also impact their value chain, in effect, it influences the entire system. So all the MSMEs would have to reach up to the standard. Then one by one, there are two requirements. One is the consumers themselves are now being conscious and wanting these standards to be maintained by the companies from which they buy products, but also from the point of view of exports. This is now one of the mandatory things, that you do need to meet these standards. You need to meet them because of the stock exchange also, which is bringing in. You need to maintain it because we are responsible citizens. In India, you find that there are many industries which have taken steps towards sustainability long before it became a law or legal. So not every company just does it legally. And then, of course, you have the CSR part of it, the CSR, which is 2% of the profit. That is another factor. So if you take ESG, which is the environment, sustainability, or social and governance, as those three things, we look upon this as a overall thing. We do not see environment as being something separate from some of your social objectives. And in that reporting, I already mentioned about the net zero, but in terms of labor practices, in terms of ethics, for instance, the governance standards, how do you do business, and how all of this gets linked, and ultimately it's better for the business itself. But this is something which it's one thing to understand it conceptually, which many of us perhaps do, and I've just mentioned some of those points. but it's another thing to actually apply it to your company, being able to see whether the company actually meets them. If you want to, if you have the intent, how do you get, uh, how do you train your people so that they can live up to those standards? What exactly does each standard mean? This is a complex thing, and I think this course, which is jointly being done by the CE Academy and Mint Matrix, and the lead being taken by the ESG group, Tushar Bhai Kashyap and his team. I think is going to offer a wonderful opportunity to be able to get there. So I wish the course all the best, Tushar Bhai and Charu and everyone else, Mint Matrix, that we do this. I think Gaurav is also here, and I think we've got a very good course lined up. So without saying much more, Tushar Bhai, all the best, and this will be a path-breaking course, I'm sure. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you for those wise words and encouragement to us, and you have rightly put everything in context. So without wasting much time, I would like to introduce you to our Chief Resource Person, Dr. Charu Jain. Dr. Charu Jain, she is a sustainability leader with deep insights into circularity, sustainability, and sustainable manufacturing practices across various business sectors and value chains. Dr. Charu, in her career of over about 25 years, has served various leadership positions and dynamic organizations such as Burberry, Dystar, Gap Incorporation, and CNA Foundation, that is, to implement sustainability practices and has well-rounded experience across the breadth of product manufacturing from design, raw materials, standards and certifications, supply chain sustainability to corporate sustainability. She also has an expertise and she's well versed with the EU policy advocacy and multi-stakeholder collaborations for textiles and fashions, chemicals, and many other related industries. A sustainability postgraduate from the Harvard University and a PhD in sustainable textiles. She was awarded the Global Sustainability Leadership Award in the year 2013 by the CSR World Congress. She has served on the academic board of various organizations such as Textile Exchange and ZDHC, and has played an instrumental role in developing sustainability frameworks for the textile and chemical industries. She has also authored a couple of books. The one in 2016 was called Simplifying Corporate Sustainability. And then again in 2019, she authored a book called Integrating Corporate Sustainability. With this kind of plethora of qualifications and laurels to her, I would request Dr. Charu Jain to take over. At present, she is engaged with TUE Rhineland as a sustainability lead for the Asia and Pacific region. Over to you, Dr. Charu.
Thank you, Tusharji. That was a very long introduction, but I can assure you that I did all of that. So thank you so much. And thanks for having me as an advisor to your course. And it is really my pleasure, as you rightly said, that I have written books and with working experience of more than 20 years with global supply chains, especially manufacturers in Asia Pacific. I have been training, the suppliers, manufacturers of textile, fashion, footwear industries and chemical industries on how to implement sustainability measures. So with so much of passion into how to implement the other part of my job was really to provide them trainings, provide them trainings that how to implement, how to become a sustainable organization. And that is my passion. So I'm more here from a corporate trainer perspective, with my passion of writing and training and coaching to the supply chains. And thank you for recognizing that passion of me and providing me an opportunity to contribute to your program, which is very much towards how to build awareness for sustainability in ESG. So, there is a business imperative to sustainability now. It is no more a buzzword. It is no more, a good to have a feature. It is definitely a must have feature for the manufacturing supply chains now. As you see on the slide, the climate change is really real. Especially the year 2025, most of us has experienced the rise in wildfires, floods, droughts everywhere. Especially, when we are based in North India, we have been seeing floods this year. Are really out of really the bloom, and it is really a new normal now to have erratic climatic patterns. And all this is happening because of the atmospheric temperature and pressures that has been increasing over the years. So, of course, if we look into the history, there has been, a lot of legislations and the governments who started movement around climate change, starting from Paris Climate Agreement in 1995, 1997, and then European Green Deal finally hitting the ground in 2019. So, world is gearing up, world is addressing climate change, and we are addressing GHG emissions reduction, etc. But the real situation is that most of the emissions are not coming from day to day consumption patterns of individuals, but rather coming from the impact of businesses that we have on the society. So when we run operations as an industry, those operations have input, process, output cycle. And in terms of input, we are having an intensive use of natural resource consumption for the manufacturing of the products that we give as an input into the manufacturing process. So if we look at some of the top resource consuming industries, those are basically mining and extraction, where heavy energy use and habitat destruction takes place. We talk about forestry and land conversions, where deforestation for timber, pasture crops, palm oil, wood is taking heavily, and you can see as a result there were so many landslides this year in North India. And India is just on the talkative, terms where it is actually being noticed by the whole world that how climatic patterns are changing here. The third manufacturing industry which I would like to talk about is textile and fashion industry, which is one of the largest polluting industries in the world, where it's a very resource consuming industry where high amount of dyes, chemicals, water, and energy is being used for the production of textiles, for the dyeing, printing, bleaching of textiles, right? And another thing with textile and fashion goods are that the consumption of natural resources does not end where the production ends. With the use of textile and fashion, we are continuously, with every consumption cycle, we are consuming the natural resources, right? Consumption of energy and water is continue. And then comes the circularity issues, where the stat says that more than 70% of the textiles that gets produced ends up into the landfill. So circularity and waste management of the textile industry is another issue. So when we talk about all these industries and the impact of these industries onto the environment and onto the society, this is immense. And it is now really very, very important for the businesses to make sure that whatever they are producing is circular in nature, it is sustainable in nature, and they have put in the processes that are energy, water, resource efficient, and that are discharging lesser and lesser in terms of output and waste. So if we do not think like that, if businesses, small, medium, large enterprises, if they do not think in sustainable manner, we would continue to see the droughts, continue to see the floods, continue to have more and more, the water stress regions, not only in India, but globally, worldwide. So, so this is really setting the context. And then businesses has to change, and businesses are changing. Now governments, in terms of regulations, are incorporating the sustainability requirements in terms of legislations and regulations. They are kind of making these requirements mandatory, that businesses take the ownership. They have a good governance policy around ESG, which is environmental, social, and governance policy. And they take care of the triple bottom line. So triple bottom line says that economical profitability should not be the only goal for a business to have. They should take care of the environment and society while taking care of their economical profit. So sustainability is no longer a choice. It's a license to operate. It's a social license to operate for any business. And when businesses want to start on this journey, what happens is they get stuck in the reporting cycle. They hear from their buyers, their clients, etc. Oh, you need to have your sustainability report. But actually, that's not the beginning of the journey. The beginning of journey is to understand where you are, what are your material issues, what are the low-hanging fruits you can take to start implementing sustainability in your supply chain. How can you change the process, the raw materials? How can you make your processes more energy efficient, water efficient, chemical efficient? These are the things that would actually make an organization a sustainable organization in the long term. So businesses has to change, and they have to look towards long-term sustainability. Yeah. And if we go to the next slide, we will see that brands and retailers, whether it is a fashion industry or it is electronic industry or any other industry, the global brands, they are now asking transparency. They are requested to have transparency in their global supply chains. On one hand, they have pressure from their stakeholders and from the governments that they need to reduce their scope 1, 2, and 3 emissions. And when it comes to scope 2 and 3 emissions, these are the emissions coming from their supply chains. So in turn, they put the pressure on their suppliers, on their manufacturers. How do you cut emissions? How do you reduce the energy use, water use, or resource use, etc.? So they are incorporating these demands into the data they are requesting from their suppliers, and also the purchase orders that they're issuing, and they're adding various types of requirements and clauses, mainly to manage these 5 resources: energy, water, waste, chemicals, and social requirements. So what is important here is that as a manufacturer, as a producer, we understand where our materiality impacts are. What are the most important material issues for our production? How can we start the journey towards the reduction of natural resources or the consumption of natural resources? And how do we implement a long-term sustainable system in place where we can say, okay, the organization has started the journey towards long-term sustainability? So the first thing is implement the right systems in place, the right measures, see where we can make the tweaking and the procedures, and then we start measuring them. Because if we can't measure it, we cannot manage it. And if we cannot manage it, we cannot sell it, right? So we have to look towards the risk management, and there is definitely a long-term business case to sustainability here. So let's look at the next slide, which says, when you start implementing the long-term sustainable measures within the organization, it actually helps us with the reporting piece also. When I spoke about the global buyers, talk about the buyers or brands and retailers from Europe and US, H&M, Zara, Inditex, VF Corporation, look at Samsung, LG, all these large organizations are now bringing mandatory reporting from their supply chains into their due diligence process. So due diligence says that uh, any supplier who is doing manufacturing for these international markets, they need to incorporate environmental and social due diligence into their reporting process. That means what are the parameters around environment or society that they are monitoring on a regular basis, and writing down the data, managing the data, so that any time when they are required to report against any of these standards that are listed, on the slide here, they are ready to report. So that means these reporting and these sustainability reportings or global regulations does not become a burden for you when we implement the right procedures and right data management process within the organization. We are ready to report whether it is Indian BRSR reporting, or it is Canadian TCFD, or it is a European Union Green Deal reporting, CSRD, which is Corporate Social Reporting Directive. So various countries are coming up with various requirements based on where you need to import or export your product. If you have the long-term sustainable measures in place, and if you have the right mechanism of doing the data management and data collection in place, then providing information for these reporting measurements also becomes easy for you, right? And when we were discussing, when Tusharji was discussing these requirements, that okay, how with his experience when he visits different organizations and industry associations, he always often hear, and I often hear, that small and medium enterprises are struggling with these requirements, right? They always feel puzzled and confused. Oh, there are so many requirements coming from different markets, different buyers. How do we fulfill the demand for everyone? Why do we have to provide data to each and every buyer separately? Why do we have to go through so many compliance and audits checklist every year? I was speaking to one very large Indian manufacturer just last week in one conference, and they told me confidentially that they go around 800 audits per year. 800 audits. So they deal with a number of international buyers, clients, and they're producer of organic textiles. But because of the plethora of the sustainability reporting standards and environmental audits and quality audits, the total number of environmental, social, and quality audits that they face is around 800 per year. So can you imagine if an organization do not have the right system in place, right monitoring framework internally placed within the company, they would not be able to entertain so many auditors or the reporting requirements per year. So it really requires us to not act haphazardly, but implement long-term sustainability in place, so that meeting these requirement, the legislative challenges or audit challenges becomes easier for the manufacturers and the suppliers. So what is a missing link here? As an education body, I think CE recognized, and then, we had these conversations because I was one of the trainers with them previously, where we saw that there is a missing link. The large organizations who are dealing with international clients, they are aware about these requirements and they're preparing themselves and putting in resources. But most of the businesses who falls under the category of medium and small enterprises, they are struggling. They feel it is very challenging that every day the new requirements are coming from Europe or from US, and now UK is a separate body, and with US, the trade scenario, the way it is changing, the requirements are getting influenced by trade deals, and that is so sustainability scenario is also changing every day. So how do small and medium enterprises, these businesses, cope up with the missing link, cope up with this gap of information or gap of knowledge? They want to act, but very few know how to act, right? And when this happens, then we see that, okay, industries as a whole or industrial organizations as a whole are probably lacking internal systems, right? So as associations, we are lacking internal systems, that how do we compile the data, on an industry basis? How are we able to process that data in an informative manner? How are we tracking the information, measuring that information, and how are we reporting around it? And how are we actually using that data for meaningful analysis? So these are the problems where we do not know what are the building blocks of implementing sustainability in a business. Whether you are a 50-man organization or you are a 500 personal organization, depending whether you're 50 crore or 500 crore, it totally depends how you have implemented the long-term sustainable procedures and methods within your organization so that you can be more future ready, you can be more export ready, and you're also foolproof. When new legislations comes, then you're not shaking as a loose tree. Your roots are strong, and okay, I have incorporated the right sustainable measures in my business operations, and regardless of anything new comes, my organization, my operations team, my sustainability team, production team would be ready to implement those changes from sustainability perspective. That should be the ultimate goal. So I think that is where the visions aligned, and CEE, especially Tusharji's team, they basically thought, okay, we should really have this course out there which can bridge this information gap, this knowledge gap in the industries, especially when we are talking about the different clusters in India, different various sectors of textiles, chemicals, footwear industry, electronics industry. All these small and medium enterprises are actually struggling with this missing link, and there is a commitment to develop this capacity and capability building from this course. Right. So if we see how I'm aware about this course, that course is really providing a very clear structure. It talks about dividing the holistic understanding into 3 pillars. How do we first understand sustainability, then implement sustainability, and then measure and manage it? I'm also very, pleased with this course because this is very similar to how I think and how I have written my books in a structured way. So I really feel that we need to decode and simplify sustainability for the organizations so that it is not a nice to have or a myth to have, but it becomes very easy for them to understand, okay, sustainability is not a rocket science. It is something which takes us back to our roots, what India was, right? Like 40 until 1940s, we were doing organic agriculture anyway, when the introduction of pesticides and urea had not taken place. Like people always talk about our grandparents, they were recycling textiles anyway. The newspaper, textiles, plastics, they were recycled anyway. So sustainability, when we have to revisit with the overproduction and overconsumption, as Kartikeya sir said in the beginning, it is really the matter of understanding what it is. How can we have judicious consumption of our natural resources? How do we understand simply and simplify sustainability? And decode the global climatic goals, climatic challenges, right? And understand what are the industrial challenges. Like it's easy to say for a textile company that, okay, you should reduce water consumption when you're dyeing your textiles, but that requires innovation at their end. Right? It is easy to say, okay, you should be changing your energy source to renewable energy, but that requires them to change the whole energy supply system. So we need to understand sustainability and then implement. When we talk about implementation, actually turning insight into action, basically, not only talk about it, but actually put some actionable measures in place so that all the stakeholders of the organization are contributing towards sustainability journey, right? And then we can definitely, I think the course will also talk about how there is a business case to sustainability. There should be an approach to value, right? So how do we start with small actions, low hanging fruits, where immediate risk reduction can take place and operational efficiencies can increase? For example, switching off the extra lights, saving energy by switching off extra lights, changing to LED bulbs, or having water saving, water taps in place. So these kind of small actions to save energy, water, resources, etc. And then how from start small, then we go to when bigger projects like putting energy efficiency measures in place, having a sustainable building design in place, or having a nice sustainable product design in place, and that which also comes along with compliance. So compliance plus quick efficiency gains can actually make us or bring us on the route of sustainability. And then how do we include strategy into it? So all these actions should be taken place into a very strategic way. We need to, as an organization, how do we make a sustainability strategy around the materialistic goals, and how there is a vision and mission behind it, right? So I think this course will very well guide us that how can we really craft a business case from a sustainability imperative, and there is a business value to sustainability as well. And I'm very hopeful that at the end of the course, you will have answers to that why you need to learn and implement sustainability. There are global customer requirements and regulations, various stakeholders' pressures are there. And what are the basic steps you need to implement in order to build internal capacity to take steps towards, evolving global standards and sustainability frameworks? And then how do we make small, measurable, and reportable actions so that we are future ready, reporting ready, regulations ready in your own premises? And then what are the things that you need to do? And, in terms of energy, water, waste management, chemicals, which is at the center of pollution, how do we manage that? Packaging, convert your innovations into sustainable innovations, and also taking care of the social aspects of sustainability, right? Providing safe working environments for the workers, and also labor aspects, etc. So I'm very hopeful that the participants today would sign up to this course, and they would benefit extremely from this course, and they would, by the end of this course, they would be actually future ready to implement sustainability in any of the organizations where they are currently working or they would like to work. So I wish CE all the best for the introduction of this course and for the launch of this course. And I now hand over back to Tusharji for furthering into the details. Thank you, Tusharji. You're on mute. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Dr. Charu. Thank you so much for putting it so lucidly, making it interesting step by step. And while you have answered a lot of questions, why, what, etc., there must be a lot many more questions coming to our participants' mind as to when this course is going to take place, what will be the content, what will you charge us, what will be the time duration, etc., etc. Now, to answer all those questions, I would like to have my colleague, Dr. Madhuri Joshi, to join us. She also is a senior program director at CEE. She is a 30-year-old veteran with us, a very learned and a very experienced lady as far as the field of sustainability is concerned. She is also the director of CEE Academy, and she has set up and coordinated the youth program at Center for Environment Education. And over this 30 years of span, she has worked on various projects of education, communication in the field of environment and sustainability. And she's authored a lot of papers. She's widely traveled, contributed a lot to the national arena of sustainability and education therein. She worked also in the social and communications research and development of education and communication unit of the Indian Space Research Organization for 5 years before having joined the center here. Dr. Madhvi, the floor is all yours. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you so much, Tushar bhai. At the C Academy, we are very excited to start this journey with the EMG and Mint Matrix. So we look forward to this partnership, and I think it's an important area, as everybody has said it right from the beginning, from what Tushar bhai said and what Kartik bhai also mentioned, and Charuji really succinctly put across the details of at least the outline of what the course is all about. And it's important because for C Academy, we believe that transformative learning is what is the crux of what we do and what we would like to do. The courses that we offer go through very serious quality checks, and we do ensure that they are able to meet the standards that we need to be able to move towards a transformation towards of achieving the SDGs by 2030 and later. So it is not just about changing just certain things, but it's about changing mindsets. It's about the changing the way one approaches problem solving at various levels. So that is the kind of work that we look at, and the courses that are offered through the C Academy. And industry is a very, very important sector as far as this goes. This particular course, we are designing it to offer it in 3 ways. The first being the online virtual instructor-led training, which would be live interactive sessions with industry experts. That's what we are going to start with from the middle of November. That's the plan. And these would include real-time discussions. There will be interactive, sharing of case studies and question and answers. Also the way it will be structured is also through assignments and a number of. It would be really an interesting session for a lot of learning that will happen through these discussions that will happen. It's ideal. These courses would be ideal for SMEs, sustainability teams, and supplier. Can I go back to the earlier slide, please? Yeah, and supplier networks. It's basically the second one is an online LMS plus guided learning. This one will be actually added later once we have completed the online virtual instructor-led training. But at the same time, we are also offering a special offer for corporate and on-site training. And this is going to be in person trainings, and as requested by the corporate groups that would like to undertake trainings with us. And so these are instructor-led sessions again. They will be done for enterprises and clusters, and these modules would be customized again for specific needs. So we already have a module developed. The course is developed, but then we would customize it also for specific requirements as discussed with the specific enterprises. It would also integrate factory-led level sustainability practice. So it will become a little more focused on that particular industry sector and that industry. And then there would be an option for group certification and impact tracking as well. So it is not just a one-off course, but even with the online virtual instructor-led training, we will have components which will be taking you a little long term, so that there is a component of hand holding and you coming back for any query that you may have, and our experts can resolve those along with you. So that's. Can we go to the next slide? Yeah. So who should attend? Who is it for? I was mentioning that. And it's for consultants, sustainability consultants who really need information which is state of the art and which is very real, and some case studies and examples that would be very useful for them. Compliance and EHS managers, supply chain and operations managers, young professionals who are just starting out in this field, and also SME business owners. So I think there will be something, I'm sure these are useful for all of you. And the kind of what is it that you would gain? Somebody asked that, what is it in it for me? Why should I join this course? And it basically will try and clarify how global climate challenges are impacting, especially your industry. You could relate some of the aspects to your industry and vice versa, both. So that kind of discussions would bring in that clarity. That's one of the outcomes that we expect. The second is to also develop capability, which Charuji mentioned also in her talk, that how do you translate sustainability commitments to actually measurable and reportable actions? How do you measure something that you're doing already? There's a lot of things that we do. Sometimes we don't really know how to measure them. So what are those? What are the ways in which we can do that? And how do you build credibility? So that's the third one. So it does build your credibility once you have been able to um, report on what you sustainability commitments you have made and actually acted upon. So it's a lot of action that will be discussed, and what one can do, the why, what, how of the course is going to be very critical for everyone who attends it. So that's the um, overview of what you will gain from this course. And the more specific details that you will be I would like to share is this is about the first one which I mentioned, the virtual instructor led training. This course starts um, as I said, in mid-November, and it is a 3 weeks. We are focusing on a 12 to 15 hours total learning period. And if we were to say in terms of, say, the university, compare it with the university courses, it is a 1 credit course, would be equivalent to a 1 credit course. And we would be aiming the sessions to happen on a weekend, every weekend, Saturday and Sunday, and about an hour and a half to 2 hours per session. We also look at a size of participants up to 30 participants in one cohort. So they can be more than one, but we would uh, that's the maximum we will take, up to 30 participants in one, just for the ease of interaction. That's a ideal size. Language wise, we will be focusing on English and Hindi both, so it will be a bilingual kind of interaction that happens with all the participants, and the mode of delivery would be online. And the second one mentioned is on site for corporates. So that would be the two modes of delivery for the courses. We will be as I mentioned, these would include briefs, concept briefs, which would be shared live, and then there will be guided exercises, case studies, etc., and assignments. We will be including sector-specific relevant examples in various sectors. Some of them are mentioned here, the ones we are starting out with, but there will be others. And we don't need really participants who have sustainability experience to join. It would be both with experience, with no prior experience. Anybody who feels strongly and would like to learn is most welcome to join. So that is, we are not asking people to have prior experience. The instructors, as you already have met some of us, so from the C Academy, there will be professionals with over 20 years of experience in education, sustainability education. So that you will we'll bring in CE's long experience in terms of sustainability and working on environment and sustainability in this sector. Also, veteran trainer and coach from Mint Matrix. You've met Charuji, and she has extensive experience and knowledge in this sector, and we really thank her for joining this instructors group. And we will invite guest speakers and experts from the industry sector itself, with who would be bringing a lot of practical and experience, which is very, very current. The assessment and certificate criteria would include attendance of at least 70% of the sessions. That is that has to be done, and we would really encourage anybody who joins to actually to try and attend these sessions on a regular basis. So for a certificate, which is a joint certificate by the C Academy and Mint Matrix, and we'll also be sharing relevant reading material for all those who join. So yeah, that's it. That's the details about the course that's starting very soon. And we look forward to you joining us. And please share this information as well with with your friends and those who could not join, and anyone you feel will benefit from this course. So thank you very much, and please get in touch with us. There is a QR code that you can see. You can go keep all the information will get uploaded on this QR code, and also you will receive emails from EMG at C India and the C Academy at cindia.org for the next details about this course, exact date, and also in terms of the fees, that also will come up as very soon. So that is it from us. Thank you very much. Thank you for joining, and I give it back to Tushar Bhai.
Thank you, Madhuriji. Oh, sorry, Madhuriji. Thank you so much for giving us the most important information. And I'm sure there'll be a few takers this afternoon onwards. And those that have attended and are interested in knowing more about it, please scan the QR code as Madhuriji has just informed us, or you could take down these two email IDs. One is ceeacademy@ceeindia.org or emg@ceeindia.org. With that, it brings us to an end of this introductory webinar. Thank you so very much for having joined. A few of you have possibly asked questions, and we would directly answer to them. A question which was repeated twice was about the details which have been just given by Madhu Joshi. The rest, if there is anything you wish to know, please get in touch with us, or stay tuned to the LinkedIn platform, where we will keep on posting about the progress of the training course. Thank you so very much. Thank you, Charuji. Thank you, Madhuri and Kashyap. Thank you so very much.
Thank you, and all the best to see for this curriculum. Wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you for
Thank you.
having me.
Thank you.
Okay.
Bye-bye. Take
Bye-bye.
care. Yeah, bye. We'll be with you very shortly.